What should the healer be like? I don't know, a sword and board tank?
PvP healer.
Yeah, that's pretty much it. Anyway, to start off, thanks so much for agreeing to this interview. I hope neither of us regret it.
Depends on the question you ask and how snarky I feel like today.
There's a few questions for sure. I'm sure a lot of people are expecting me to focus a lot on what you do in ESO, or what content you provide for ESO, but I figure we'd make this more about you. I mean, we're going to be talking ESO, but while we're playing together, I think we should get to know you first. You know, we need to wine and dine you before we ask you out. You know, a lot of people tend to forget that behind, you know, your name, your channel, whatever, there's a person, right? And every person needs to be one and done, in my opinion, anyway. So first things first, I'm atheist, and you're the Asian god. Does that mean I'm wrong?
By definition, yes, because clearly I'm a god.
Damn.
Although, if you see the post on TRE, clearly I am not actually a god. I'm supposed to be a dunce.
So what's up with the name? There must be a story behind it, or do you really have the answers to everything? Surely your friends and family in real life don't call you the Asian god, you know what I mean? Hey, the Asian god, dinner's ready, or stuff like that.
No, it's actually a holdover from the Xbox 360 days back when I was a Call of Duty asshole person, high school.
How good were you?
Me and a couple of our friends were like considering going competitive once, and we actually did do a competitive match, but we decided not really for us, just in terms of like how intense it was.
Handle the heat? Or was it too much time investment, I'm guessing?
It was just like, it just felt too toxic.
Okay.
Like we joke about how like, oh, did you end up queuing yet? I don't know if you ended up.
Oh, I'm the lead. I'm so stupid. Hold on. Let me,
Yeah, but it was mostly the fact that, like, you know how the whole Halo shit is, like, oh, look, you're playing against, like, 12-year-olds that are screaming kind of thing. Like, kind of similar to that, except not as, yeah, it's basically just, it was not a good environment. Someone declined the invite.
No, that was me. I queued us up for normal. My bad. So without the words "the," "Asian," and "God," how would you describe yourself in the context of being a content creator? Or rather, for any viewers watching this who've never heard of you, what kind of content should they expect from you?
Definitely more PvE. Definitely a lot of trial stuff, but I also do like hard mode DLC dungeons. I do those a bit with friends from Mayflower.
It's like that.
They shouldn't really like people who are coming into the channel for the first time. They shouldn't expect any sort of PvP stuff. Like maybe I'll put something down if I feel like, hey, I might as well do something different today or this week. But it's mostly just going to be like raiding, raid stuff, theory crafting for PvE. I've never really enjoyed PvP too much in any game.
Well, that's interesting because you said you used to do a Call of Duty. That's pretty much PvP.
Yeah, which is pretty as PvP as you. How are you dead already?
I'm dead?
Yeah, it says you're dead.
I'm on the loading screen.
What?
Oh, here I am, dude.
Oh, there you go.
Alright. Okay, we have what seems to be a necromancer healer. Or something, I don't know. But anyway, ever since you seriously started putting out content for a bigger audience in ESO, a lot of people have called you the spiritual successor to GilliamtheRogue, who also dealt with a lot of math and theory crafting in ESO, and who's actually since gone on to actually working for ZeniMax. So first question regarding this, do you think that's accurate, that you are the spiritual successor to GilliamtheRogue, that you are continuing some sort of his work that he's left behind?
To a certain degree, I do agree with that statement. It doesn't feel like there are a lot of people anymore who do kind of go behind the, like, break down the mathematics, but I also don't think I'm quite as good as Gilliam is, in terms of just, like, PvE stuff. Because I know he used to be, what, Night Fighters, I think? Or...
Night Fighters, Order Mundus, I believe, and something else prior to that.
Yeah, like, he was a really high-end raider, and I still consider myself mostly like mid-tier, high mid-tier.
How do you define mid-tier and high-tier? Because everyone has their own little definitions.
Yeah, I mean, for me, high tier is like you're going for scores, you're going for, you know, competing for those top-end scores and stuff, and, you know, the guilds I'm in, we're not really about that, we're more about, like, clearing things, getting some achievements, and just having fun, which, you know, high-end guilds, you know, a lot of it is having fun, like, that's your fun, right, being able to get super high scores, but yeah, that's how I would really define high-end, like, PvE. Like, if you're at the stage where you're mostly competing for those leaderboard spots.
Would you ever be interested in working for ZeniMax Online Studios, like Gilliam was, or not your thing?
No, that's definitely not my career choice. I know a little bit of coding, but it's not really, like, game coding. It's, like, statistical coding, so... like, first of all, I wouldn't even be qualified, but I don't really have any interest in joining that sort of like game developer, I'm guessing.
So you're definitely a numbers guy, though. Like me, I can barely add two numbers together most of the time. I'm like the anathema with your godliness, basically. Does mathematics somehow have an important role in your everyday life or career or something? Because I know you mentioned like you were at an academic conference, I believe.
Yeah. So yeah, maths is a pretty big part of my, at least the past 3 or 4 years, but it's always kind of been with me. So my master's
or...
well, it's just my academic interest just kind of lied in that direction.
Right.
Like, I got my master's in biostatistics. I'm doing a PhD in epidemiology, which involves a lot of statistics as well. So it's just something that's always kind of really interested me. How can I use numbers to predict things and, you know, kind of, you know, Asian pre-med kind of thing. How can I tie that into like medicine without actually being medicine? Because med school is not right for me. Figured that out pretty late in my college career. Where is this healer? Jesus.
I don't think they're ever gonna come here.
Yeah, they're still all the way up at the entrance.
Well, might as well start and see where this goes.
Okay, we're gonna pull.
So anyway, this interview could be watched by a lot of people, from new players to potentially the staff from ZeniMax Online Studios. If you had to say whether or not ESO is worth playing, why would it be so either way?
If ESO is worth playing and why?
Yeah, worth playing or not, yeah.
I think it's worth playing.
Why so?
I do say, I think the biggest draw of ESO, this is coming both from like an endgame and also from a more casual perspective, like it's really casual friendly. Because I know MMOs generally have this sort of, have this like, oh, you have to invest. Oh no, you're dead. Like okay. You have to invest so much time into MMOs, but like it doesn't feel that way for ESO. Like it feels like you can invest as much time as you want or as little time as you want, and you'll still have a lot of fun at the game.
So as a content creator, what do you think about ZeniMax or just the game's general direction right now? Okay, I'm dead.
Well, in terms of general direction, it's weird because like as a PvE, like you're an endgame PvEer and you see all these changes coming out patch after patch, and you're like, oh, they're design flaws. There's so many design flaws. They're not, you know, really playing their game or whatever. But at the same time, you know, in the back of your head, you're also thinking like, well, are they actually going to try to cater to us, or are they going to cater to the other bigger market audience? They're the casual players. You know, and people like you and me will eventually find a way to adapt to these changes. So while I don't necessarily agree always with the direction that they're going, I understand why they're going that direction. And I think in general, the endgame community might suffer for a little bit, but the overall health of ESO is probably going to improve as a result. Though it's kind of hard to say, because there have been some pretty interesting changes in the past.
Seems like our healer is finally here. I think he was excited about your answer. Alright, here we go. So, there's actually... Oh, sorry. How long have you exactly played ESO?
So I was a beta tester way back in 2014, Oh god, I don't even remember how long ago that was.
2014.
Yeah, I think it was 2014, but was it 14?
Around there.
That's just wow. Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, I was a beta tester, so I had my little beta monkey too, little beta monkey pet. So I played for a while, then I took about a year break or two just to focus on college at the time, and then that's when I returned. I think I returned right before Homestead came out.
There's actually a lot of math involved in ESO behind, resistances, penetration, champion point, jump points, and so on. What's the number one thing that people often get wrong or misunderstand mathematically about ESO from what you've seen?
Oh dear,
This boss is
dead.
harsh. Holy, we didn't even kill it. It's 2.4.
Yeah. It's hard to say because for them, I haven't really because I participate via YouTube comments with all my watchers and things like that, but I don't. It's hard to say what thing people seem to get wrong the most. If I have to say one thing that I see people usually mess up, it's normally thinking that things like minor berserk or minor vulnerability actually are a flat 8 or 10% increase when it's really not. But that's understandable because a lot of them don't. Most people don't know the actual damage calculations in ESO.
Alright, so here's the math question. If Daedra A is moving at a rate of 5 meters per second from Cold Harbor to elsewhere, and Daedra B is moving at a rate of 5 meters per minute from Mournhold to Cyrodiil, how many grains of sand are there in the Alikir Desert?
The Ardrip dude told me the answer once, and I don't remember what it is. I'm gonna say several sextillion grains of sand.
I have no idea if that's correct or not. But anyway, here's a real math problem with ESO. Do you think, as a mathematician, that it'll ever be possible to achieve, from what you've seen so far, true gameplay balance in ESO, especially in regards to how both PvE and PvP is intermingled, and that skills are being balanced for both sides at the same time, like for both sides?
I honestly don't think so. And then part of it is it's the nature of MMOs. There's always going to be something that's just a little bit better, but it's also, if you're trying to balance for both PvP and PvE, they're just so much, they're just completely different games essentially. PvPers and PvEers play the same game, but it's a completely different environment. So I'd say no, I don't think we'll ever be able to get true balance unless you're everybody only gets to use these 5 skills and that's it.
But let's talk about your superhero origin story. We know you played in beta and you came back for Homestead, but how did you actually start out as a content creator in ESO? Were you a role player before? Were you the guy in zone chat saying Razum Dar's penis isn't barbed? Or how did you get to where you are today, basically?
It started way back. This is probably just after Homestead came out. Yeah, it was just after Homestead because I remember my first video was in that island house, I think. It was some house. It was definitely in a house, but at the time, I was part of another guild, Shogunate, and one of the people there were like, "Oh, you like to help out people with build stuff and things like that. Why don't you make a video? Because it's hard for people to explain rotations in written way. Maybe you can just do a video and show them how to do it in video form." And I was like, "Oh, that's a good idea." So that's how the first video came to be, and it just kind of stuck for it. I never really expected it to be so big. It was just sort of oh, it's just something that I can, if any guild members ask, oh, here, go to this channel and watch that rotation.
So the Asian guy was born in ESO.
Yes, that's how I was born.
You mentioned earlier you currently raid with Mayflower on PC North America. What role do you perform with them? Are you the raid lead, the tank,
Oh,
DPS?
I'm a tank. I think I first joined actually as a DPS, but at some point, I think one of our tanks left, and Jared, who is the raid lead, was like, "Hey, you have a tank. Do you want a tank?" I'm like, "Okay, I'll tank."
So,
It's pretty much been tank ever since for Mayflower.
do you raid with anyone else besides Mayflower? And besides, raid guilds, what other kind of guilds are you interested in? Like roleplay, erotic roleplay, non-binary pansexual erotic scaly roleplay?
I also raid lead for a sort of like social / PvE guild, Hellfire Dominion. So we have a couple of teams there, and I would lead one of the teams. But beyond that, those are the really two main guilds that I actively participate in. I'm part of like a few trade guilds, obviously, because who isn't at this point? But I don't really actively like go around trying to make money like that way.
So, do you have a favorite role or a favorite class in terms of PvE?
Tanking. I love to tank. That mostly is because that's kind of what I was pigeonholed into, just because they're like, hey, you have a tank. Those are really rare. We want you as a tank, but I'd still say tanking is my favorite role, just because it's kind of a game in itself to, get your uptimes as best you can and make sure everything stays taunted and you stay alive.
That's a very interesting response, considering a lot of other endgame PvE tanks, such as yourself, usually say, I hate tanking. I just have to do it because there's no one else. But, so you're like the 1% that says, I actually enjoy tanking.
I do. Like, I'm not gonna turn down a chance to like DPS ever.
Right.
I certainly would like to, just to make sure I have my DPS chops going all the time. But I would not be sad if I just was tank forever for like Mayflower or something.
The end of time.
Yeah, basically.
Damn, that's pretty intense. So what do you think is the hardest part about endgame PvE, or even just PvE in general?
I think the hardest part is, at least when you're first like starting out, or just in general kind of thing.
Whichever.
So I think the hardest part about starting out is everyone tries to be or copy like the best people. People always try to copy Lyko's build, or try to copy, Stout Anima as a healer build if they're starting off as a healer, or Roller, or you as a tank, for instance. And it's kind of like, you don't really have to do it. Like, those people are really good, and everybody that they play with is really good, but the teams that you're starting out with might not be like, holder level of good. So I think the hardest part for people is realizing that, hey, you don't need to necessarily optimize right away to get started. Different guilds have different requirements, they have different goals, so you just kind of have to adapt to what that guild wants. Like Mayflower, we don't stack stamina necromancers at all, and we're not planning to when we eventually progress for Godslayer. So I think a lot of people kind of lose sight of that in PvE, both when they're starting off, and I feel like sometimes even when you're already in the community, you're like, oh, I have to do this, I have to do that. It's like, you don't really have to. It's really nice if you can, but unless you're, pushing for scores, it's not really that necessary, is it?
Basically, for you to have fun whenever possible, no matter.
Yeah, I think people tend to lose sight of having fun, which is really kind of the whole point of
a game.
Gaming in general.
Speaking of Liko, he says he's very excited to watch his interview.
Can't tell if he's being sarcastic or not.
No, I think he's genuinely excited. So, in regards to mechanics in PvE, what do you think about them? Like, there's a lot of people saying the new trials coming out, they're just recycling the mechanics over and over. Do you agree with the people, or do you think the mechanics need... Oh my goodness, I'm gonna die. Sorry. Do you think like the mechanics are... what do you think, basically, about the mechanics?
To a certain extent, it's kind of like there's only so much you can do with mechanics before you have to end up recycling them. I don't think it's necessarily a bad thing to recycle mechanics, but every time you do it, I feel like you gotta add a little bit of something extra. So take like the best one that comes to mind is the new dungeon that's coming out in Scalebreaker, Moongrave Fane. One of the bosses has a very Zasasha-like mechanic where you have the shield, you gotta DPS the shield down. Oh god. But they added in some extra mechanics to it which were unique. So I feel like, you know, in that instance, sure, it's okay to reuse mechanics, just make sure they're adding something unique or interesting to it. But something like Black Rose Prison, I think that was just lazy design, especially the 4th arena was basically, hey, we're just going to take the first 3 and put them all into one arena.
And you didn't enjoy that part? That was probably like one of the hardest parts to figure out. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, especially when we were trying for Unchained. That
Right.
it was either the 2nd arena or the 4th arena that got our butts.
What's your favorite trial in terms of that context, like in terms of mechanics?
In terms of mechanics, so keep in mind that I'm kind of biased because I am a tank. I really like off-tanking Asylum hard mode. It's really super involved and it's really fun to do. Oh yes.
You're literally like the 1% of all the tanks I know that everyone hates off-tanking and main-tanking Asylum Victorium, and you're just like, I love tanking Asylum Victorium, you just put me in it, coach.
It's okay. I would not main tank Asylum. That's just boring ass shit.
Okay.
But the off-tanking Asylum, when I was learning it, was a lot of fun. I really enjoyed it.
I see.
Oh my goodness. It's kind of rough without a healer, you know.
But we're still alive. We haven't wiped yet.
We wiped plenty. That's what you're talking about.
Not since our last wipe.
Rip the speed run.
Okay, so that's like 40 minutes.
You make a lot of content regarding theory crafting and builds for ESO. Just to get an idea of your process for the audience, what's involved? How hard is it to make these videos, to do all this calculations and all that?
It's not usually that difficult because the math is. It's not like, you know, you'd have to do calculus or anything. It's pretty much straight arithmetics. Are the DPS gonna survive this or not?
We'll have to take it slow.
Yeah. Alright. But the general process is, you know, figure out a question. Normally it's like, okay, do these two sets, how do they perform relative to each other? Or, you know, what's something that this particular class or role can potentially make use of? And from there, just figuring out what's the most relevant calculations to figure out. So, like, the new way of martial knowledge, that one's pretty easy because it's just, okay, just take a look at damage taken debuffs and, you know, compare that to how much increase you get from using Alkosh. So the process itself isn't that bad. It's usually coming up with ideas because ESO's update speed is not particularly fast. It's like, what, once every 2 months or so you get a big update?
Some would say it's a bit faster. Or do you think that's fine? Every 3 months is a new update.
Well, the other MMO I used to play was, I think everybody used to play this, but RuneScape, and they usually had update, usually every week or every other week you would have some big balance change, like they changed one set or something, or introduced some content that introduced some new piece of equipment. So, like, compared to RuneScape, it's a little bit slow. But maybe compared to other MMOs, it's a little bit fast. I'm not sure. I never really got into any other MMOs besides RuneScape and ESO.
Interesting. So, what's your proudest moment so far as a ESO player, then, or even content creator?
As an ESO player, oh, that's hard to say. I think the proudest moment would definitely be getting Unchained. That was quite a journey to get that achievement there.
How hard was it? How long did it take?
So it was 3 other people from Mayflower. So we had a healer and 2 DPS from Mayflower, and we decided, hey, we're gonna go for Unchained. And I think it took us the better part of... We ran every week on like Wednesday nights. I think it took us about 2 months to get it down.
Once a week, basically?
Yeah, once a week, yeah. For about 2 hours.
It's not too bad.
That's not terrible. Like, that's about what, like just under 20 hours, I think.
Now that you've done it, what's the part you hate most about Blackbirds? I'm assuming it's stage 4.
Yeah, stage 4. Stage 4 is just a right pain in the butt. Dear God, there's just so many mechanics and final boss. The strat we were using is just really risky, high risk, high reward, but you kind of have to do that in order to get the achievement. Oh no, heal me.
Oh no, we don't have a healer.
Oh yeah, our healers.
Well, we got a new healer with a dungeon cube finder. Going off of that, in your opinion, then, what is the hardest content now, right now in ESO?
4-man is still definitely Black Rose, but 4-man's not that many options for 4-man. But for 12-man, I'd still say Cloudrest is one of the hardest contents, next to Asylum.
What do you think that is?
What's that?
What do you think that is?
I'm sorry. Alright, you're gonna have to say it again, sorry.
What do you think Cloudrest is the hardest content in ESO at the moment?
Mainly because of the amount of raid awareness everybody needs, particularly the DPS. So like Hellfire Dominion right now, we're progressing through Asylum, and one of the biggest weaknesses of our group is that sometimes the DPS are just not very aware of what's going on. And that's not a skill you can like necessarily teach. Like you can say, like, okay, here's what the boss is gonna do. Here's how we deal with it. But ultimately, like teaching raid awareness, that's not really something you can do.
I think that's one of the hardest parts about being in a raid team or even being a raid lead. That you can't teach certain things to people even after so long. Would you have any advice for the people who can't seem to get the hang of it?
I would say the biggest piece of advice that has helped me as a raider would be just looking at other people's streams and kind of seeing what they're doing, preferably from obviously your role's point of view, which makes it a little bit more difficult for healers and tanks. But that definitely helps out because you get to see what they're doing, what order they're doing their sort of abilities in, what they're prioritizing, and especially with things like ESOLogs, if there's any publicly available ESOLogs on the website, definitely check those out too. I think that's probably the best way to kind of improve things like that.
A lot of people in this game often, for whatever reason, argue which role is the hardest, but a lot of back and forth. What do you think is the hardest role in ESO? In general, or just to master?
I'd probably say DPS, and I know people are probably going to give me shit about that, but I honestly think like being a good DPS involves paying attention to a lot of different things at the same time. You have to do your rotation. You also have to do any mechanics that are happening. You kind of have to pay attention to your positioning. And people seem to think, oh, it's really easy to get super high DPS. Look at all the really high DPS that are out there, but like that's because you have like 8 DPS in a raid versus 2 tanks and 2 healers. I'm not saying that tanking and healing are necessarily easier, but it's just a different type of difficulty. And at least to me, I think DPSing is one of the harder things to accomplish in the game. Like doing very good DPS in a raid is tough.
You mentioned ESOLogs earlier. There was a lot of uproar in the ESO community about ESOLogs, about it's invading my privacy, or it's gonna make people toxic. From your experience, how helpful has it actually been for your raid teams, or how helpful do you think it is as a mathematician?
Incredibly helpful for raid teams. Basically, like after every raid in Mayflower, usually 1 or 2 of us have put down the log for the night, and our raid lead goes through it, and it's like, okay, here's what we did, here's what we can improve on. I see that our uptimes are not that great for this particular buff, and it's just super helpful as a raid lead to be able to identify what can we improve on specifically, where can we improve specifically. And I have not seen the whole people using it to blacklist raiders from raid teams kind of thing. I don't know, maybe it's happening and I'm just not in the right discords, but I haven't seen it really at all.
If there's one thing from what I've seen, people always ask these days, it's usually, how do I improve my damage, my DPS? Do you think your videos help people who ask this question? And what would your number one advice be right now for these people asking the same question?
I would like to think my videos are helping. I definitely have people tell me that, hey, I watched your video, my DPS went up 10k, so I know it's definitely helping some people. And the biggest piece of advice for DPS is don't worry about gear or anything like that. Master the rotation first, because if you can't do your rotation, if you can't light weave, especially on magic DPS, it doesn't matter how good your gear is, you're just not going to be able to do good DPS. So definitely work on mastering the rotation first. That would be my advice. Anybody who wants to improve as a DPS.
Man, are you ready for this hard man?
It's pretty easy.
your voice kind of cracked. I think you're nervous about the fuck.
I mean, the werewolf just took the portal thing, so.
Whoa,
yeah.
Good luck. Yeah, next question. Pineapple on pizza, yes or no? Oh god, I felt it.
I was waiting for this one.
You were just waiting the entire interview for this one?
I am not against it. I'm not against pineapple.
It's a yes or no question, sir. Oh no.
Oh boy. Someone's gonna die.
2 people are gonna die.
Oh boy.
I mean, technically I could solo it with you. Okay, maybe not.
Oh, not anymore. Fuck it, I'm just gonna wipe. But yeah, pineapple on pizza. If it is just a binary yes, no, then I'm gonna have to go with yes.
Oof, okay.
It's not that bad. Like I would not.
I mean, I like pineapple as well sometimes. Yeah, it's a topping. I think a lot of people think it's not a topping. Technically, anything's a topping. At least in my opinion.
Yeah, like I would not say no if you were like, here, eat this like Hawaiian pizza. Like I wouldn't say no, but it wouldn't be the first thing I'd order on a pizza.
What would the first thing be for you?
Buffalo chicken.
Good taste, good taste. Yeah, how about your favorite ice cream flavor?
Oh, favorite ice cream flavor. That one's tough too. I'm always partial to. Why did somebody use rabbits?
We gotta go fast.
Favorite. Yeah, it's gonna be tough. I always love cookies and cream or cookie dough.
What do you think the best patch was for you or for people in ESO?
Best patch for man, you're gonna make me try to remember all these patches.
I mean, there must have been one really good patch where you were like, "Oh man, ESO is so damn fun. I would replace my life with ESO." Something like that.
I can tell you which patches I hated or like I thought were bad, but
sure. Which ones do you think? Which ones did you like?
I did not like Murkmire. Murkmire was a bit weird. Morrowind was also a challenge to get used to. It wasn't necessarily a bad patch. I felt like it was necessary. It just took a while to get used to not having that sustain anymore. I'd say out of all of them, probably Homestead. That might just be like nostalgic, but Homestead was a lot of fun with the new player own home.
If you could change just one thing about ESO, what would it be? And yeah, just one thing.
Balance PvP and PvE separately, god damn it. Be the only thing I'd ask for. If they had to do one thing, just do that, please.
Definitely not a fan of that,
It just doesn't work.
On the other hand, what is one thing about ESO you would never change?
The fact that support roles are actually support roles. Like I know with other MMOs, like being a tank is just like being a meat sponge, but in ESO, it's more than that. It's like helping to support your DPS, and I hope that never ever changes.
People say otherwise, like healers should just heal, tanks should just tank. And this was in regards to the recent Scalebreaker DLC patch notes, where there was a nerf to healing springs and orbs. People think this is gonna make healers focus a lot more on just healing. So, do you agree with that sentiment? I guess not, basically. Oh, that portal's bugged.
Oh boy.
Oh no.
Nope, didn't make it.
Okay, well.
So, do I agree with tanks should tanks, heals should heals?
Basically, but I think you answered that. For the,
Yeah, I don't think that's the case. Oh, goodbye, healer. No, healer. I believe in you. He hits like a wet noodle. You're fine.
Okay, well, I wonder if he has a necro res ulti. I think he does, because he no, that was the first healer. This guy's a knife blade healer. It's okay.
Don't worry, he's got me. We're good.
He's gonna silence Rakat with Incap.
Fuck you. I'm just gonna bury that shit.
Nice. That's 300 IQ Asian plays, dude. I'm getting up. Oh shit, here we go.
Oh, this is a portal thing.
Yep,
oh,
yep,
fuck.
Yep.
Oh, fuck. Nope.
You can do it, you can do it!
Oh, damn.
No. Oh, fuck.
It's up to you, Nefas.
I might as well just burn it. Hopefully you can heal. But yeah, oh god. 400k. Easy peasy.
You're a Templar. You can JB him. Like a 60k per tick, right?
That was quite the stressful ICP. From beginning to end, it was like, oh, what's happening? Okay, so if you were stranded on an island, and you had one other ESO player with you to survive through the ordeal, who would you choose? Just one other player.
Oh, one ESO player.
On an island, stranded. You gotta survive together. Just a little
man. One ESO player. I don't know. I would say Tabby because she's super smart, but she's like astrophysics smart, not like survival smart.
Astrophysics will somehow play a part in survival.
Yeah, like, I don't know, just like, she's smart, she has one of those doctoral thingies. Maybe she knows what she's doing. But yeah, I don't know.
Okay, so...
Or maybe like Kala, so like he can like hold me with his big burly arms while I cry myself to sleep.
Okay, now if you had to choose another ESO player to raid with you, and you had to clone them 10 times to get a raid team together, who would you pick to clone?
If I had to do what 10 times?
Clone them 10 times.
Oh,
for a raid
10
team.
times. Oh, boy.
Who would you choose?
Oh boy, that's a good question. Oh.
Anyone. It could be anyone on PC, NA, could be PCU, Xbox, NA. Doesn't matter. Anyone.
I'm probably gonna have to say the raid lead from Mayflower, Jared. He's just such a great guy. Like I can see myself raiding with 11 of him and being just like the happiest, go fun, like super casual but still super serious at the same time.
It's pretty cool to know.
I think you've raided Jared in the past, right?
Yeah. He's a chill dude, for sure. But I think you just kind of broke the hearts of everyone else who wants to be the Asian god Bay. Look like Jared gets all the attention.
Everybody, you just got to be Canadian and you got to be super nice.
Well, would you ever consider making content for other games in the future, or is ESO going to be your main thing for forever on your YouTube?
I would definitely consider like making content for other games. Probably not like the same type of content that you do for ESO.
Really? What kind of games?
I've been playing Dragon's Dogma quite a bit. see me on like TRE, you'll probably see me playing Dragon's Dogma. I also do like Dungeons and Dragons, which is more of a tabletop RPG. And then eventually, when Borderlands 3 comes out, I'm gonna plan that, and then whatever that game is, I forget what it is, the one on another planet or something. I forget what it's called, like Outer Rims, Outer Worlds, something like that.
Yeah.
So it'd be more like a let's play thing, less of a hey, here's how to make the beefiest dude in Borderlands 3 kind of thing.
So coming back to the topic of ESO, there seems to have been a few people from the forums or elsewhere that think you're toxic because you assert certain stances on certain things in the game. What do you have to say about some of the reactions by some of these people?
Hey man, it's just a game, chill.
Well, I think there was a forum thread a while ago that was saying some stuff about you and Outcast and how you guys are only promoting Best in Slot or something like that. That's toxic.
Wait, but that promoting the Best in Slot is toxic?
Something like that.
I wouldn't say it's toxic. I think what people have to remember is the environment that Outcast and I are used to raiding in, and I've done plenty of like off-meta builds. Like I put out like here's a Ice Warden build, for God's sake. Like how off-meta is that? Like we just have to realize like what are your expectations going in? What is it that you want to see from a content creator? And you know, maybe instead of coming to my channel, going to Outcast channel when you don't want to do vet trials, maybe check out another streamer or check out another content creator who does content that's more in line with what you want to play. Like there are plenty of our peers and more casual players that also stream. It's not just like Outcast and me, and that's pretty much it.
Oh, that's rational response.
Yeah.
A lot of YouTubers get sorry, go on.
Yeah, I mean it just sort of baffles me that people are like all up in arms, like, oh, Outcast and Asian God and you know whoever, like, oh, they're so toxic because they're promoting endgame stuff. It's like, well, you don't really have to watch our thing.
You know, a lot of YouTubers get weird or crazy comments. What's the craziest thing someone said on a video of yours so far? From what you can remember.
What I can remember.
I mean, there must be a lot.
Yeah, the most recent one is the whole Mr. Graven's thing about being a dunce, because I don't think I've said anything to him since that one video that we did, I did. Like,
I think the quote was, "You're not the Asian god, you're the Asian dunce."
Yeah, something like that. That's pretty interesting. Sometimes he comments from time to time on my videos. Like, that was the most recent one. He's always a real kicker. But no, most of the comments are pretty tame. Sometimes I do have to kind of remind people, hey, be respectful of each other. It's okay to have differing opinions. Just, you know, don't call somebody an asshole or something like that. Like I have definitely had to delete some comments that were using like, you know, the R word or something like that.
What's the most common question you get on your videos, or is there no common question?
There's not really any common question. There's a common theme. Like a lot of people ask, oh, can you do this build video or can you do that build video? But there's never like one question that always seems to pop up over and over. Oh wait, no, I know what it is. Add-ons. What add-ons are you using? And I keep forgetting to do an add-on video because I have one that's really old. I have to update that at some point.
You think you'll do one right after this?
I probably. Just so I actually remember.
Okay, here we're pulling the boss.
Yeah, man, no wait.
So speaking of your YouTube channel, what are your plans for the future? Are any big plans or projects besides, you know, doing the add-on video you're gonna embark on, or any personal goals for ESO?
Currently the plan is to kind of keep on going through all the PTS changes. I know there are a couple of bugs that need to be fixed before I can actually do some of my tests, but that's the immediate future. Gotta start thinking of build ideas for when the patch goes live, so I can get those out real fast. But beyond that, I guess it's just wait and see how the environment goes. At some point, I am going to end up leaving ESO, just because real life things. But hopefully, I'll be able to stay here for another, at least until the next chapter. Another year.
Don't go. You're gonna break a lot of hearts.
Everyone has to go at some point. I hope I can stay. I hope I can keep on going. But part of it's going to really depend on what happens in the next year or two.
In terms of
when I
real
get
life
my
and stuff.
dissertation thing, yeah, with my academics and things like that.
And you mentioned in passing earlier on in the interview that you and Mayflower are planning on going for Godslayer sometime in the future. Is that also something you're interested in? You're gonna be happy about going for?
Yeah, I am excited to go for Godslayer. I think the only trifecta that we've pushed so far was Griffinheart, and we were gonna do IR, but we were like, oh, let's not because Sunspire's coming out in like 2 weeks. So yeah, I'm excited to push for Godslayer. I think Sunspire's pretty challenging, not necessarily for like mechanics-wise, because I think the mechanics are actually pretty simple to deal with. It's more the challenge of actually getting the speed.
People were initially disappointed with Sunspire in terms of pretty much everything. Like they said they were inspired by Maw of Lorcange for trash mechanics, but a lot of people disagree. What are your thoughts on this, the Sunspire?
So I can see them. I can see maybe a couple of mechanics might have been inspired by something from Maw, like maybe Focus Fire was something from Lexus Hasha, like the exploding shield thing or something. But I don't know. The mechanics just feel very simple. Like it felt like you could figure it out really, really quickly if you like really paid attention and weren't a complete idiot. Like how to deal with them.
Overall, do you enjoy it?
Overall, I would say as a tank, not really, especially as a main tank. not really. It's better than it's better than main tanking Asylum, but I wouldn't say it's like my top 3 favorite trials right now.
What are your other top 2 favorite trials? I think you only mentioned Asylum being your most favorite trial.
Yeah.
What comes after that one?
After Asylum would probably be Maw. Maw is always a lot of fun to do, and then Cloud Rest is third after that.
That's the last pledge. You know, on September 20th this year, there's going to apparently be at least 1 million people raiding Area 51 to see them aliens. Do you think you'll go?
No.
You're not interested in seeing them aliens?
I am not. I am more interested in not getting shot by a government soldier.
But I mean,
know it's a
they
meme,
can't
but-
stop all of us.
Yeah. I know it's a meme, and I know it's not. Well, I hope it's not actually going to happen, but
Statistically speaking, would you go if there was actually 1 million people? Like,
I definitely would not say no. I would have to consider it. Oh, my food right now.
but as a math guy, do you think alien life actually exists somewhere out there, mathematically speaking?
The universe is so large. It has to be like.
It has to be at Area 51.
It has to be there. It has to be there. Like I can't. Like the universe is just enormous. There's just no way that we're the only intelligent living things in the universe.
The path you're going through. Must have farmed the city of Ashquat a bit.
Oh yes, trying to get that burning spellweave staff. And then I ended up being a tank forever. And I'm like, oh well, guess I'm not farming this anymore.
A lot of people, actually never thought we'd get a 5th class, namely the Warden, and then a lot of people after that didn't really expect a Necromancer class. But in the future, what class do you think would be appropriate? Like a toolkit-wise, or just a general concept, in your opinion?
Like, in terms of what I want to see something like a full support class. Like, the class was designed just to support and not really DPS or anything. Like, just tank and heal and support the group. So like a go into like the classic D&D, like a bard or like a druid or something. Which I guess Warden kind of falls under druid-ish.
I was about to say the Warden sort of fits that.
Yeah. Or it can go like just complete, glass cannon. Like this class is clearly just DPS stuff. Just hit things really hard, like a barbarian class or something.
In-game PvE Raider, you probably have a favorite title. What would your favorite title be? Like from achievements.
From achievements, I am partial to the Unchained because that's my favorite achievement to go for. But in terms of titles themselves, I really like Extinguisher of Flames, and when we get Godslayer, I'm just gonna wear that title all day. Mostly because the Urswat meme, but
if you had to make a title, what would it be?
Mountain God. It's so silly that that's not a title.
Oh, right, it's the achievement name, but you don't really get anything
the achievement
for it.
name Mountain God, but doesn't give you the title Mountain God. Like, I think that is a badass title.
It'd be interesting if they actually implemented that. So we're talking about classes now. What class is your favorite? I think we talked about your favorite trial fights and such, and your role, but what class is your favorite?
Wardens, for sure.
Really?
If I had to nail down like one class, one role, Magicka Wardens are my favorite. Just has a special place in my heart. I know they're not the best, ever. I don't think they've ever been the best since they've been introduced, but I just like playing them. I don't know what it is, it's just like you have the bear, it's just freaking awesome, it mauls shit.
Probably sound very strange to some of your audience who look to you for, best in slot or the correct optimized numbers and so on. Is there a particular reason why you like the Magicka Warden, or just the bear?
It's probably just the bear, but I also like challenging myself, and I feel like Magicka Warden is a good challenge to play well. There's not that many Magicka Wardens out there that are playing at like an endgame PvE sort of level. I can only think of maybe like 2 or 3 people who can possibly do it.
And this fall is always the roughest for some reason.
Yeah, I like Magicka Wardens. I know people seem like be like, huh? I thought you'd play like STEM Necro or something. I'm like, I have fun with Magicka Warden. That's what matters to me.
In your opinion, how would you improve the Magicka Warden?
I think right now the biggest problem with Magicka Warden is the fact that I think the big thing is they don't really provide any sort of important group buffs. Like DKs provide there you go. Like DKs provide minor brutality, Nightblade gives you the minor savagery, but like Wardens give you minor toughness, which is like, it's okay, but it's hard for Warden DPS to provide that. And I think in terms of DPS output, it's just their abilities are just not that great compared to some other class abilities.
Speaking of class abilities, it looks more and more for the Scalebreaker DLC patch that homogenization of classes is gonna be a thing. What do you think about this?
As an endgame player, I don't like it. I like seeing some sort of class identity. But like, as a business person, I think it's inevitable. It just makes the game simpler, makes it easier to pick up for new people. Like, I know why they're doing it, I just don't like that they're doing it.
People have been asking me and other people what we think about the Scalebreaker PTS patch notes. What do you think about it so far? As both an in-game PvE and just content creator, I guess.
I think it's a bad move.
The whole patch notes, or which is there a specific part?
I'd say the biggest one would probably be the healer changes. And this is not talking from an endgame PvE perspective. It's talking from just like general casual player, progression kind of player. It just doesn't make sense. You're just making it that much harder for progression guilds to finish content. People like Mechanical Challenge, Valor, Hodor, Symbolic, like they'll adapt. They'll know what they got to do to adapt. But for progression guilds, it's going to be really hard. Like, I want to clear proudest +3 with Hellfire Dominion before Scalebreaker comes in, because I know it's just going to get a lot harder once it happens. Won't be able to stack springs. We'll only have one orb out at a time. Healing output's going to go down. It's just not great for progression guilds. And so I feel like in their, I don't even know what they're like. They said they're standardizing things, which I guess is sort of like maybe like bring down the ceiling and raise the floor kind of thing. But it just feels like they're just kind of screwing the pooch for people in the middle. There's like that saying that goes like, if you nerf the top, the bottom is going to feel it a lot more. And I think it's true here, because endgame players, we have enough knowledge about the game mechanics to adapt to whatever changes they make. But beginner players, mid-tier players, they don't really have that. So I think there are definitely some portions of the patch notes which I think were needed. But in general, I think they could definitely revert some of, especially the healing springs and orb changes.
You would just want them to completely revert the spring changes and the orb changes.
Yeah, just the healing change at the very least, or at the very least, sort of rethink how to go about doing it, because you're shooting. Yeah, you're just hurting a lot of progression guilds. You're hurting a lot of casual players more than you're helping them. If your whole idea is to raise the floor, it's not really going to work out that way.
The other part of the patch notes you strongly disagree with, besides the healing changes?
It's mostly just
the
healing changes there. Yeah. Everything else sort of makes sense, like standardizing abilities so they all sort of more or less do the same damage. I can get that, it's sort of like bring some sort of equalization to the classes so they're a little bit more equal. But the healing changes, that's the big sticking point for me, that's the big pain point for me.
The typical responses so far to the complaints by not just the endgame PvE healers like Tabitha and Styles on the forums, and to other like healers and progression groups is just to get good, or just to adapt and so on. Like, do you think, as it is right now on the PTS, it's possible to just get good?
I think it is. I always believe that people are able to reach a certain level of achievement if they just work hard. Yeah, there's always going to be some talent involved, but I think it's possible for everybody to learn how to be a good DPS, how to be a good healer, how to be a good tank. It's just, are you willing to put in the effort to do so? Yeah, and I've played around with two healers from Mayflower, two different healers from Mayflower on the healing changes, and they've pretty much all said, took some getting used to, but eventually we kind of learned how to, use better, best use my orbs or best use my healing springs. So I think it's possible to adapt to it, yes. It's just a matter of, are you willing to adapt to it? How much give are you willing to give out?
Right, and a significant portion of the player base don't really seem to have that much time to start with. And I guess we'll see, I suppose, in regards to the healing changes next patch. And really, I'm personally waiting for the orb change to finally occur, hopefully this coming week 3 PTS, I believe. If not, I'm not
Yeah.
sure what they really want us to give feedback on.
Yeah. I mean, that's also one thing that sort of baffles me a little bit is that they say, oh, you should test out the changes before you know, complain about them. But there are some changes where, like, you don't necessarily need to test. You can just do the math or kind of like use common sense and say, like, hey, that's probably not a good change. The other thing, too, is like people don't run raids on PTS. Like, we go in, we, you know, make our house, we put up our test dummy, and we just run a bunch of dummy tests. I don't think there's enough incentive for people to actually go in and raid on the PTS with the new changes. Unless there's like an actual new raid that's introduced, no one's gonna go in and raid because what are we gonna get out of it? You're just basically burning up 2 hours to make progress in something that, you know, not really all that useful.
Was also Before we end the interview here, I'd like to thank you again so much for agreeing. I think if I asked any other content creator right now, they'd be like, fuck you or something. You're telling me to get off. But really, thank you. I really appreciate you giving me so much of your time. Really appreciate you basically carrying me for the Undaunted keys. That was my entire plan from the start. I just wanted the Undaunted keys.
You just wanted it done.
Yeah,
well,
pretty much.
I needed them too.
Okay. Oh, so it's mutual benefits. Friends with benefits.
Yes,
Friends with
mutual
benefits.
there. Yeah.
But before we end the interview, one last question.
Sure.
What is your favorite race in ESO?
Clearly the Dark Elves.
Really?
Anybody who's followed my channel at all knows that Dark Elves are the best.
Why Dark Elves?
They just have very interesting lore. I'm sure you've talked with. Is his at name still That's Foxic?
Yeah, Fox.
Yeah. Like you can talk to Fox about it, but like in Dunmer lore, I think is very fleshed out. Like at the very least compared to some other races. I also think Khajiits are really interesting because of their lore, but Dunmer, more so than Khajiits, I think have had their lore fleshed out pretty interestingly. And plus, like if you know their lore, you kind of have to feel sorry for them because like 3 of their kind basically just fucked over the entire race because hey, they wanted to have god powers.
Like the Dark Elves, huh?
Yep.
Is your tank a Dark Elf?
Tank is a Dark Elf.
Everything's a Dark Elf. Oof.
Everything's a Dark Elf except my Sork, who's a Breton. I have a Stamina Warden who is a Red Guard, and I think my Stam Sork is a Khajiit. But the other 9 of my characters are Dark Elves.
I think that's best in the slot.
Yeah. Like people are always asking, like, why is your tank a Dark Elf? I'm like, why isn't it a Dark Elf? I get Magicka, I get Stamina. It's awesome as a tank because you can always get more health by just like getting more health and chance or something.
Have you tried any other races besides Dark Elf? Or did you just stuck with the Dark Elf because of the...
I've just stuck with the Dark Elf. One, because I'm cheap and I didn't want to pay for race change tokens,
Right.
and 2, it's sort of like a, I'm already like committed to it, I'm gonna stick with it kind of thing. The only thing I think I'd change would maybe like tank on a different race. Like I know like Nightblade tanks are a big thing in Cloud Rush, or not Cloud Rush, Sunspire right now,
Sunspire,
and I've
yep.
always wanted to do it. Yeah, Sunspire, but like I don't have one set up. But I do have a Warden who's able to tank if I just respec her a little bit. But I do kind of want to try out the other classes as tanks. It's just DKs are just so great for progression that it's hard to justify. I'm going to do a Templar tank for my progression. I think Jared would not be happy about that.
Have you tried the new class Necromancer as a tank?
Not on live. I tried it out on the Elsewhere PTS just to kind of get a feel for it. Just from my feeling from there, I know things probably have changed since then, like since Elsewhere went live. But I enjoyed playing a Necromancer tank. It's just I've been so busy with like my research position as like as my academic, as a DocPo student, along with making videos and real life stuff. I haven't had time to like level my Necromancer on live, so it's still like level 20 something, so I can't really play it right now.
Well, before we end our interview, for real this time, do you have anything else you'd like to say to anyone watching?
Not really. Lyko, I hope you were excited throughout the entire interview, and I hope I did not, I hope I met your expectations. And Mystic Raven, dude, fucking get a life. Why are you still commenting on my videos?
Jesus.
Or I should say, attempting to comment on my videos, because your comments do get caught by the profanity filters. Yeah, that's pretty much it.
Well, it was quite an interesting interview. My heart was definitely pounding on some of those IC people. That's for sure. I was, it was like at this, like I was trying to ask you a question, but at the same time, I'm like,
Trying to DPS.
like my mind kind of blanked out at times. So I just walked into a portal at one point. But yeah, thank you so much again, Asian, for letting me interview you. Really appreciate it.
Thank you for giving me the opportunity.
What's up, guys? Asian here. Just wanted to take this chance to once again thank Nefas for giving me an opportunity to take the time, I should say, to interview me, and I really appreciate having that opportunity here. So if you guys are not aware, Nefas also has his own YouTube channel, as you guys may not be aware. So this is his channel right here. He is also a PvE endgame player, and he does play all 3 roles. As you saw in the interview, he was a DPS, he also main tanks, and also heals as well. So he has VODs of pretty much all the different roles on his channel for those of you guys who are interested in kind of seeing how a DPS or a healer or a tank plays in sort of endgame trials. Definitely check out his channel. He also does a lot of other sort of theory crafting videos as well for PvE, and he also kind of takes time to kind of break down every kind of major change that happens in each patch. So for example, he talks about whether Werewolf's DPS is dead. This video he talks about how multi-bidding may or may not be a quality of life improvement in the Scalebreaker PTS. So really varied pieces of content that is both beginner and endgame friendly as well. So I highly recommend checking out his channel out. Again, it is NefasQS. He also has his own website as well, where he shares some of his builds for endgame PvE. So for those of you guys who prefer a written guide rather than a video, his site's also a really great place to check those out as well. So again, thanks you, Nefas, for taking the time to interview me, and I will see you all in the